Do faculty cheat when they use AI? Let's talk about that this episode.
The Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. But bear in mind, the views and opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation. This episode is sponsored by the Herzog Foundation, a powerful partner in equipping Christian school leaders like you. If you're looking to sharpen your leadership and renew your vision, don't miss the Herzog Foundation Institute, a multi-day in-person training experience for Christian school principals and administrators. Held at their state-of-the-art facility in Missouri, as well as all over the country, each cohort dives deep into leadership development, school culture, and mission clarity, all through a biblical lens. You'll grow alongside fellow leaders who understand the challenges and calling of Christian education. And here's the best part. The training, lodging, and meals are completely free. All you have to do is get yourself there. Visit herzogfoundation.com to see upcoming sessions and apply today. It's not just leadership training, it's kingdom work. And as always, tell them that the fellas here at the Christian Principles Podcast sent you.
Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
I'm Mark Zockel. What we want to talk about today would be faculty AI usage policy. Here to do that with us, and the gentleman, the scholar, the head of school, the doctor who brought us this topic to begin with, Dr. David Warren, who joins us again, having previously been on the pod way back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Way back in the day. This would have been episode 75 when we talked about free Christian school administration, enrollment, and donor development through the Herzog Foundation. So we're excited to hear back from Dr. David Warren, from David, as we haven't had to do this in a while. But David, are you again okay with us not referring to Matt as grand potentate, master ruler of all, as long as we drop your title as well throughout the episode?
We're all good, guys. We're all good.
Oh, man.
Oh, he's going to get that
One of these days, somebody is going to want to refer to me as such. So,
all right, David, tell us what brought this to your mind, if you wouldn't mind. Tell us where you are on AI, or just what sparked it.
Yeah, so the last couple of years I've done a webinar through AACS on tackling technology. Done it for a number of years, off and on. And last year we introduced AI, and this year did that again. But from last year to this year, the ramp up of AI access, the ramping up of the AI usage, both by students and teachers. It's really clear that there's a need for some discussion in this space, and then hearing the responses on all different levels regarding student usage or faculty usage, or even you see stuff in the news now, tangent, whatever that word is, you know what I mean? Tangent to this topic. But even I saw a note recently of a pastor who was in trouble for use of AI. And what is the reasonable use of AI in preparation for a sermon versus having it write the sermon? You know, there's all the nuance there. But so big conversations that are being had. So we're developing an AI policy for our students. And alongside of that then comes, well, what about teachers, and what's allowable, what's reasonable, what's acceptable? So that's where we kind of land.
Man, I love it that you brought us this topic, because even as you said in some pre-talk here, it's the least fleshed out. But that's not just you, and that's not just us, and that's not just Christian schools. It seems that I go to the university level first, because we're thinking about, kindergarten teachers. They're set in their ways. They've done it for 30 years. They know what they're going to do. But it could be that in reacting to some technology, reacting to new demands for literature, let's say, or reacting to the young adults who make up their university classrooms. We think of high school and universities as perhaps more on the front lines of some of these policies, some of these procedures. What is it that they're doing? And from what I can tell, it's tough to find policy specifically pointed at faculty. I'll say faculty and staff here, but just know we're looking at faculty today. We're looking at how teachers go about using technology. It's not
Yeah,
as easy to find. We see a lot of these are guiding principles that we want our students to follow. And if you just happen to Google, faculty policy AI, you'd find this is how we want you to represent to your students what you expect of them. And
yeah,
as you mentioned, there's a huge range on that, right? What we expect of students,
yeah.
there's a massive range on that.
So a year ago, 2024, 20% of schools had an AI policy at all. This year, you're up to about 40%, but still more schools don't have a policy than do. That's all schools of all stripes, not
Sure.
Christian specifically. And I don't know, you say if you're still Googling things, you're behind, right? If you're not
Yeah.
using ChatGPT or Gemini or open,
Mhm.
you know, AI tools to do your searching now, right? You're ineffective. Like I know I'm joking. To use
Sure,
that
sure.
term,
Sure, yeah.
we still say Googling things, but our students are not Googling any longer. They're plugging into AI to get results and to get
Mhm.
information. Even in your phone now, right? You type in what you would think is normally Googling, it's replaced it, and it gives you that AI generated summary at the top. And usually that's everything I need. It's like right
Mhm.
there succinctly. So we're in an AI infused world. And so what is acceptable for a teacher? What are
Mhm.
acceptable uses and what's unacceptable uses? And before we even get to the student level, we've got to maybe start with thinking about what we want our teachers doing or not doing when it comes to AI.
Isn't it often the
Yeah.
case in policies like this? We think where we want to attack them, and then we're like, wait a second, we got to back up 5 steps. We're starting with students, like you said. Maybe we should back up to what we're doing. Now, Matt, I want to ask you this question: Can and
Ask away.
should I'll do it right now? Can and should faculty be using AI? Is it appropriate for our faculty, Matt? Is it appropriate for your faculty to use AI?
It's interesting, and perhaps it is AI related, that prior to us jumping on here and recording this episode, I received an advertisement for an AI product to help transform a teacher's life from preparing a lesson plan in weeks to a matter of minutes, and putting that lesson plan into action. And there is a part of me that's like, man, if teachers don't have to spend that time, think about how great the lessons could be, because now they're spending more of the time in just prepping and executing the plan as opposed to creating
Teaching?
it. Yeah.
Actually teaching.
Yeah.
I think the word
So-
you're searching for is teaching.
It's teaching. Yeah. But it's interesting to me. Now, granted, you still need teachers to, one, make sure that they're teaching truth. So, the critical thinking on a teaching level of what to include in lesson plans, or how to answer student questions, is still going to be extremely important and necessary. So that's maybe a very roundabout way to answer your question, that yes, I think using AI is a potential help for our faculty. Should they be using it? Yeah, I think we're still going to need to be giving them boundaries and directions and guidance.
I think one of the things in this conversation that we lose sight of is how we got to where we are today. I think that if you go back, a few decades, and before the advent of the teacher tools we have currently, not the AI generated ones even yet, but the curriculum we use in our school comes with PowerPoints, it comes with homework packets, it comes with all kinds of clip art and tools that the teachers can use. Many of those are now digital and such, but do we have any problem with those when they're generated by the curriculum provider or even teacher pay teachers? I can go pay another teacher to use the tools that they have and stuff. And we don't see a problem with that as long as the teacher is leading the curation of those things. What we seem to have a problem with is this seems a little too fast, a little too easy to create something for my classroom. And so I think that leveraging AI for those same purposes, lesson planning, generating resources, even the thing that's awesome with AI is even differentiating instruction.
Yep.
We're asking teachers in classrooms today to do a whole bunch of stuff, and especially in smaller Christian schools, and saying this student has this reading issue, this student has this learning disability, this student has this need, and you need to accommodate all of those different students with all of those different differentiations. And yet they maybe don't have resources or the know-how, where now with AI, there are tools that I can plug in and say, set this up for Johnny who has these particular struggles and give it a prompt, and it can now differentiate that instruction, creating assessments. So I think on my side of the philosophy, those are all acceptable kind of uses for a teacher to use AI in the generation of some of those things. I think where we get into questionable is when kind of two fronts, right? One is where what am I presenting as my own? So just being careful of being transparent about where something was generated from. That was part of it. And then as a Christian school, am I getting it from a Christian worldview? The good news is that much of the AI tools now I can sandbox. So I can use my curriculum to create those tools. So it's using the data that I give it. So it's not going out into the vast information highway, so to speak, and gathering all these worldviews and then coming up with its own responses. It's using the textbook that I've given it, or it's using the prompt information. The other side of it is assessment. There are tools now that will do the assessment for you. This isn't like a Google form that self-grades it based upon a multiple choice or something. We're talking about reading the paper, and it will give outstanding feedback based upon the rubric that you've injected to it. And probably you've created the rubric using AI in the first place. And then throw that rubric on top of the paper, it grades it, and then you spit that back out to the student as a graded paper. I think in our policies, there's got to be minimally that the teacher puts their eyes on everything they create with AI. If I give a worksheet to my students, I better have looked through it to make sure it's accurate. Does it align with what we're actually wanting to teach, even with this information? Or did they go maybe not even a bad thing, but a different direction than the key information that I want them to take away from this? And then if I'm giving them assessment data that says you did good at this, you did poorly at that, this was what, is that accurate to my viewpoint? Is that accurate to what I want to say? And if I've never even read it, that's the danger there, I think, is where that's when the teacher's not really doing their job, and such. But I think, that's just some feedback there.
David, you gave us so much to munch on there. You walked right through. You got us to the policy itself. You're already there. If I was going to say, in simple response, it sounds like both of you are saying, whether it be the Microsoft Word, the red underlines like we talked about before on the show, as that's AI. That's somebody else showing. That's the computer showing me the work. Very, very today is elementary, but that's fine.
Grammarly all day long to make myself not look like an idiot.
There you go. Exactly. So it sounds like both of you are noting that in your schools, you are to some level expecting and fine with faculty using AI, but in both of your schools, we're saying we don't right now have guidelines in place for that from the top down. So when we think about some of the most common ways that we're using AI, we're going to skip past what we talked about in prior episodes of some of those really elementary ways, like the Microsoft Word, Grammarly, things like that, even though they're not necessarily elementary in their application. And we know that not everybody uses them, but we do see in reports that more teachers across the board are using AI, and they have in the past. And David, you mentioned a few, and Matt, you mentioned a couple, but I'm going to roll through a list here quickly, and you just tell me when I read it off. You tell me, do you find yourself or anybody in your school using these AI helpers? So first up, teachers use AI to help them write emails to parents and administrators. What do you think? Either one of you?
All day long.
Now, is that you or your faculty staff, you think?
Both, but you said
both.
I think the key word is help. I think that I typically generate a skeleton of a letter or an email and say, what's nice about it is I can ask it to, we did a good example. We do a Christmas party every year. And so you send that letter to all your staff, and it's kind of the same, boring. So I said, hey, make this fun, funny, make a lot of Christmas puns and make it humorous and everything.
Nice.
And, in 30 seconds, it gives me something far better than I would have created in hours. And so you can do that for that. Or I can say, hey, I have a discipline issue here. Can you make sure the tone is such that it comes across as caring, but yet firm, and, those kind of things. And oh, wow, that's exactly how I would have wanted to say it if I was more thoughtful at this, those kind of things.
Yeah. And even if, generating that, you then are reading it again and say, well, that doesn't really sound like me. So I'm going to tweak this. I'm going to change it because I would rather, insert this into the statement. But yeah, sometimes it's, well, that's way better than I would have come up with.
Matt
And
has
you're
to
saving
type in.
time.
Matt has to type in, rewrite this like you're 15. You got to misspell a few things for Matt there.
Yeah, please. No, my spelling is excellent.
Excellent.
I got great spelling.
All right, next up.
Grammarly tells me I'm improving.
Oh, good. I'm on that upward trend. Okay, next piece. How teachers use technology to create quizzes and other classroom resources. So assessments and assignments. Do you see that in your schools?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Teachers use AI-driven strategies to differentiate. Dave, you talked about this already as a place of strength.
Yeah, they're not doing it enough, but it's available to them. I think they're not aware of some of the tools. I don't want to get deep into that because it's a deeper dive, but if you can set up prompts and what they call gems and Gemini and stuff, but you can set it up so that you can reuse it. So you have this kid in your class, and so every time an assignment like this comes up, you're going to have to do the same thing. So you can the idea is kind of save that and apply it multiple times throughout the school year and really benefit the teacher and the student to very quickly do the differentiation that you couldn't even do before.
Right. I think that's what really is the next level. And the thing I would probably push my teachers towards more so than the lesson creation and all that would be, hey, I need to teach this concept. Give me 3 different ways to present it. Give me a way to challenge kids a little bit more in this area or help those that, dealing with the typical difficult things for kids to grasp. And when you have that resource in your pocket, like that's just massive. And we spend so much time. I'm even thinking just in, as a history teacher, how much time I'm like, they're not getting it. And I don't know how else to present this. Like easy.
All right, next one. Teachers are using AI to align lesson plans with standards. Now, perhaps, depending on where you are and what you're doing, standards may or may not be a native part of all those our listeners' lesson plans.
We have no standards here, Mark. We have no standards.
We do whatever, man. We do whatever we want. It doesn't matter at all. No objectives, no standards. We fly. Yeah. So in this case, though, and this kind of goes back to the lesson planning as well. Do we see, I guess, first more basic lesson planning, and then perhaps do we see standards with those lesson plans being used? Yes, no, in your schools?
Yeah, we don't use it specifically a lot because we're not in a situation where it's necessary and required in the same way, but it's definitely very easy to do. It's been there for years as far as a lot of the tools that are made for education. There was always a little drop down, find the standards that your school is needing to align with because of accreditation or whatever other purpose. And it would then generate the right wording and verbiage and standards that they could align those lessons with. That's not a new thing. It's just more of the same and even better at it.
Yeah, right. And I think the time, I was going back to the time that's saved, that probably wouldn't have been a top tier thing to use AI for. But now that you're saving time in other places, this is just maybe a cherry on top to be able to bring that in.
And more of our schools are in situations where they're receiving perhaps vouchers or other programs in their state, and they're asked to be accredited. And even with the Christian accrediting agencies, oftentimes they want to see lesson plans align with the standard. So it's a definite help.
Yep, definite need for those who are growing in that way. All right, how about AI used to give students feedback? And you mentioned, this isn't just Google Forms, pull up multiple choice questions, whether they're right or wrong. This is going into, and I'll touch on one now. Brisk. So Brisk is an AI. There are free AI tools for teachers. They can sign up individually. That's not even a word. These teachers can sign up individually. I think tangentially is the
Grammarly
word.
would have helped
Yeah.
fix that.
I think tangentially is what Dave was looking for. I think individual is what I was looking for earlier. Yes, Grammarly would have helped me, but it doesn't. Voice activated Grammarly, but Brisk brings in a lot of tools, and if you go to Brisk's website and you just set up an individual account and you log on, it'll show you. It'll send you a copy of a student paper in Google Docs, and this is a Chrome extension, so it focuses more on what G Suite, the workspace, whatever it's called now, and so it actually says what kind of feedback do you want to give, and do you want to base it on themes? You want to
Microsoft 365 as well.
365 as well. Awesome. It says how do you want to apply this feedback, or where do you want to go with it? And that's just one of the tools, but as you mentioned, it is subjective qualitative feedback. It is not just you got 3 out of 5, so on and so forth. So Brisk is one of those that would do this. Anything else though that you've seen?
Yeah, I would. We could spend all day, but Vibe Teach is very similar. But Vibe Teach, it's the same thing like Brisk. It just hangs out, and then whenever you're on something, you can open it up and say, here's a rubric I want to use. You can create the rubric. You can AI generate a rubric. You can use one of their pre-done rubrics, but you apply it to that paper. And I did it on some of the papers that I graded myself. I graded completely by myself, adding all the comments. And it was crazy because I gave the student a 92, and Vibe Teach gave it a 91. And like that was not like a one-off. It was like multiple times the grades were within a few points of what I had, because it was using my rubric, and and I was like, and however the feedback that it gave, which was much more exhaustive and many more comments than I had time to give. I'm grading some papers and such, so I'm giving summary where it gave a lot more details and such, and then I could sign off on that. I haven't used it yet, but next year I plan to use it to help me, and then I'll go through. Like I said, I'm still curating all that data. I'm not going to just let it go free in grade. Though I was crazy how similar the grades were.
Absolutely.
In that situation.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, the danger in that is merely the teacher saying, "Oh, I trust this 100%." So I click that button and I give it back to the student without ever looking at it myself. And it's important for us to communicate. It's not that we don't want to save you time. Obviously, we do want to save you time. You are better to me having saved time, but at this, you're also responsible for leading and directing and helping these kids, and it's negligent to just let AI do it all for you. So you're putting your eyes on it.
Yeah, and the key to using those successfully, by the way, as well, in big part, is what is the goal of the paper that you've assigned. So therefore, that rubric is the key to getting to the same result that you want, because you can grade any paper just for grammar, right? And whatnot. But what was the purpose that this assignment was assigned to these students? What are they writing about, and what purpose? So generating that rubric helps then even that AI tool to work most effectively.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, hey, I'll just grab this, grade it for me, but I didn't give it any real direction. And I see that too often, both with student and sometimes teacher work when it comes to AI.
Yeah, and I guess it could snowball, which again, this is a thing we're deep diving. We're going down the rabbit hole of the teachers then having AI create the rubric, and you go back farther and farther and farther, which again isn't necessarily a terrible place to go, as long as it's representing what your target is. Yeah, and it is accomplishing the ultimate purpose there. Yeah, sweet. The next of those tools is teachers are showing students how to identify original work versus AI generated content. So what do you think of that?
So is the question, how do we do that effectively, or
Or
we're
is
talking about
it a good thing for is it a good use of AI for teachers?
to
Showing how
try
to
to?
identify original work versus AI generated content.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to that are important. One is obviously we use the tools we have available to us for checking for plagiarism, and this would be in that category. And nothing is perfect, and so you got to be realistic about the fact you're not going to catch everything. But there are some interesting things that are coming out with AI. The other thing is letting students know that it's important that they do this properly. The college level, it's more and more of a thing that they're testing for, and AI generated content is putting more and more, for lack of a better terminology, but they're putting like watermarks
Mm-hmm.
within things that are created, not just images and videos, but even in writing. They use keyword things
Mm-hmm.
that will get picked up that you wouldn't necessarily recognize, but they'll throw in particular words on purpose in places that when a generator AI detectors are used, grab those things. It's kind of interesting, but they're trying to create more and more ways to test for those things, and students need to be aware of that. It seems like, hey, this is easy. Student at a school here this past spring was caught using AI to create their final project in a classical type school, and a friend of mine is administrator at. Well, they did some homework and it found that he had been using it for assessments. He had kind of snuck his phone in, which is a whole other level, but
Mm-hmm.
then was using like Chat GPT and such to take all the assessments. And basically, they had to dismiss the student. It was that extreme of a situation. This wasn't a one off. So, yeah, definitely, I think teachers have to be aware of that and have that conversation with students more and more.
Yeah,
And
and
that's challenging.
it
It's
is
what's the
challenging. I think
curriculum.
that the scary thing that I know I hear from teachers and even administrators is you go through that process of even, bringing it up, and we've had to do it at our school. Talk the students through, here's what, is the difference between and how we can tell what's the difference between your original work and what's AI generated. And the fear is, by going through this and dealing with it, kids pick up on things so fast and so easy that they're going to get better at it, better at hiding it, I should say. And then, it just makes our job that much more difficult. But, you know, that it's a world we're living in. And you don't just say, well, don't use it, period, because
Yeah, I
they're
think
going
that's one
to.
of the things. I'm glad you brought that up. I think we've seen historically blanket bans on this kind of thing is not the approach I think we want to take. We need to take a wise approach and ethical approach, preparing students to use it well, not ignoring it, and of course, not a everything goes kind of situation, and kind of growing in it together. I remember back when we started using e-textbooks and Chromebooks, I had schools around, especially in, some Christian schools, like, we'll never use e-textbooks. We will never. And so, okay, that was, just a different view of it. And then the pandemic hit, and suddenly some of those
Right.
same schools were asking, how did you do this? And how can we do that? And like, okay, it never became, unless there's a pandemic, I guess.
Right.
Uh, but and not to say schools can have different philosophies or fall out at different places on these things. That's not at all what my point. That we're right, they were wrong, or anything. But I think just the caution of never. You read stuff about calculators back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
the response, well, we should never be using those. It's not like they're going to have them everywhere they go. Uh,
Right.
okay, so
Yeah.
apparently maybe we do. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, and this last one, I think we've already kind of hit it, but it says AI is also being used to generate ideas and summarize meeting notes. And that, yeah, we get that.
very helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what the whole point of this whole conversation is, generating ideas. But at the end of the day, what we're saying is, we still want our teachers, we still want our faculty to be able to, have purpose in what they're doing, and that it is driven, just like we would whenever
Yeah.
we're choosing curriculum. We changed the Bible curriculum this year. In some ways, as you were saying, that's kind of like deciding we're going to use AI in this way. So, we still want to have direction.
Yeah.
We still want to have boundaries,
Have a
but
policy.
it's there. It's there. Yeah.
I think my charge to the schools, if they ask, is at least be having the conversation and working towards a policy if you're not quite there yet. But sitting down with teachers, talking about how are you using it, where are you encouraging them to use it, where are you discouraging usage, and starting there, because teachers are going to start coming if they haven't already, and saying, what's our policy for our students, and be ahead of that and saying, hey, well, let's talk about our policy for teachers so that we can model
Right.
this well, and then let's trickle that down to, okay, what's acceptable use in the classroom for students and whatnot. Which isn't, again, also one size fits all for different schools, the technology they have, but also it's not one size fits all for every classroom. What's acceptable for English in a writing assignment, creative writing assignment, might be different from what's different in your Bible class or your history class, and because the purpose and whatnot. So
Yeah, and that's where policy is massive, because you don't want your teachers having necessarily just all completely unique policies. That
yep.
makes it really difficult on the students, and so you have the overarching school policy to help kind of keep that all running smoothly. All right, well, cool. We're going to move into our administrator spotlight, which David, you gave to us, so I'll let you kind of share a little bit about Jenny Lynn.
Yeah, let me say one thing just before we jump into that.
Sure.
Just because I think it'll be good for your listeners to know, if you're a school that is using Google Workspace for Education and you use Google Classroom and you haven't logged in over the summer, you might want to check it out, because at the end of June, they announced and they've added Gemini right inside of Google Classroom.
Right.
And last week they announced that the default position is it's on, and it's on for teachers and for students. So don't want you to come back to school and push go and all of a sudden realize, oh, students have Gemini sitting there in Google Classroom. And I was totally unawares. So just a heads up, I think it's great, especially for the teachers. Not so sure where I fall on the students having that easy of access, but I'm pretending like they don't have access anyway. So at least
Right.
at least be aware of it, though. If you're a school that uses Workspace for Education, that this fall it's auto turned on unless you go in the admin panel and disable it. The default is yes. So Google's going all in like everyone else.
All right.
For our administrator spotlight, you just mentioned Jenny Lynn Small. Jenny Lynn is our high school secondary principal here at what we call West Campus. So it's not just high school, it's 6th through 12th grade. She's a graduate of Calvary Baptist Academy, and she came back as a teacher and taught English for us. And then last year was her first year as the secondary principal. And she does a great job. She's very much desires to use that position to not just educate but disciple students, and she has a love for them. And so we're excited to have her here at Calvary Baptist Academy. And she enjoys summer. She has 3 little girls and they go camping a lot, so I know she's enjoying that, but also did make the comment that when you move from teacher to administrator, those summer time off is not the same as it was.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
a little bit of a step up there. So shout out to Jenny Lynn for her hard work here at our secondary school.
Awesome. All right, Mark, you want to pray for Jenny Lynn?
I can definitely pray for Jenny Lynn, so let's go ahead and do that.
Let's do it.
Father in heaven, we thank you so much again for David joining us on this episode. Thank you for the leadership he has shown, his willingness to put himself out there, because it is not easy talking about technology, because it changes the next moment, as you well know. But we thank you for the tools you provided our schools, the tools you provided Jenny Lynn to do her work as well as she can. We thank you for her sweet family. Pray for her camping trips, her time away in the summertime in this year of transition for her, Lord. Might she continue on in the role that she knows you've called her to, as we all have pangs for the classroom at times. Might she be secure in the role that she knows you've called her to, and may David, in his time, may the rest of the administrative staff there at CBA support her, and may she be blessed because of it, and may those that she is helping along the way come to be more every day like the image of your Son. We love you. Amen.
Amen.
Well, everybody.
Hey, might I just mention,
Yeah.
I'll be at the Great Lakes Educators Conference here in October, and then I'll be on the East Coast up in New England area for the AACS. I'm not sure what the exact verbiage is, but we're the Connecticut,
Yes.
Boston, that area in November, and then down with AACS again with Matt Tiskus and their group down in Texas in November as well. And these topics are on the docket. So if we want to talk more, and by then, who knows what will have changed in the AI world.
Right. Yeah.
But we'll be continuing that discussion and trying to iron sharpen iron. So if you're in any of those places, say hello at least and say, hey, I heard you, even if you don't stay for the session, whatever.
Another friend of the show, Brad Parker, Dr. Brad Parker, will be the one in that New England category who is heading up that in conjunction with, the head honchos down Tennessee, right? That's where they are, down in Tennessee. That's the mothership down
The
there.
main
So,
office, yeah.
main office, yeah, there we go, down there. So, well, thank you so much. Hey, David, where else can people find what it is that you put out and where you are if they want to reach out to you personally? Are you okay with something like that?
Yeah, mostly probably social media, my Facebook account. I try to post some things there. We have a podcast we started here for the school,
Yep.
but not yet expanded out into the tech side of things. So I'm looking at maybe doing some of that, see if there's an appetite for it, and if there's a conversation to be had. But yeah, right now probably just social media on Facebook, David Craig Warren. You can find me there and just connect that way. And if you have questions or whatnot, obviously email. But I don't have a huge web presence or something at this point.
No problem.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. Thanks for growing with us today.
Before you go, please be sure to hit that follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, on Spotify, be sure to tap the star icon near the top and select the number of stars you'd like to give us. We'd be so grateful for 5. On Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the ratings and review section and then tap write a review to share your thoughts of the podcast. Thank you.